Get out of here. You don't look like the owner. The words sliced through the quiet like a whip crack, sharp and certain. A woman in a sleek white dress sneered, her voice bouncing off the iron gates of the mansion behind her. Never realizing the man she was confronting owned every inch of it. 3 uniformed guards flanked her, one already unclipping his handcuffs like justice meant public humiliation. The man said nothing. Broad-shouldered, steady, dressed not in a designer suit but a simple gray tank top bearing the word humanity, he stood with hands clasped calmly in front of him. No protest, no defense, just stillness. The guards didn't see restraint. They saw resistance. One chuckled under his breath. Another outright laughed, shaking his head. The third leaned in, his voice low and smug. Men like you don't belong past this gate. Think a few dollars bought you a place here? Think again. The woman stepped closer, her heels clicking like a clock counting down to chaos. She jabbed a finger close to his face. This is private property. You can cry all you want, but you're not getting in. Call for backup. A small red light flickered to life above the keypad beside the gate. The system began its scan, quietly, unnoticed. What they did notice was his silence. And silence, to them, looked like weakness. It wasn't. He'd lived through this before. At 23, when a landlord refused to give him the keys to a condo he'd already bought. At 30, when a valet assumed he was the driver and handed him someone else's keys. Now again, new faces, same story. Tension tightened the air. A small crowd had started to gather on the sidewalk. A teenager, holding up his phone, whispered to his stream, "I'm filming this." The woman snapped around, barking orders to detain the kid too. But she was already losing control. Finally, the man lifted his eyes, calm, sharp, unshakable. "You're sure I don't belong here?" The guards laughed again. The handcuffs gleamed, ready. But then the gate let out a mechanical hum. A screen lit up red, then green. Owner profile recognized. The moment froze. No one moved. No one spoke. The green light held like a verdict. Still, the guards hesitated. One scoffed. Probably a glitch. Happens all the time. His hand still hovered near the cuffs. The woman folded her arms tightly. That doesn't prove anything. Real owners don't show up in gym clothes. He didn't respond. Instead, he adjusted the strap on the plain leather case slung over his shoulder. No brand, no flash, just functional. His calm wrapped around him like armor. He'd weathered far worse storms. And then the gate spoke. A clear, automated voice echoed from the speaker overhead. "Welcome home, Mr. Donovan." The street went dead silent. The teen filming gasped. Even the guards exchanged quick, anxious glances. But the woman wasn't done. She snapped back, louder now, desperate. "That can be faked. He doesn't belong here." Her voice carried down the cul-de-sac. Windows cracked open. A silver SUV rolled to a slow stop, the driver leaning out to watch. The teenager whispered into his mic, "Did y'all hear that?" The system just welcomed him by name. Comments exploded across his screen. Mr. Donovan didn't flinch. He had long grown used to being underestimated, told he didn't look like a homeowner, a CEO, a man who belonged, even when he built the spaces himself. And now, even at the gate of his own home, the doubt showed up in uniform and heels. One guard stepped forward, his jaw tight. "Sir, we can't just let someone in because a computer says your name. Protocol demands verification." He stressed the word like it could rewrite the truth. Mr. Donovan's gaze flicked toward the keypad. Right on cue, the gate's cameras pivoted. Not toward him, toward them. A low hum, then a second chime. Unauthorized personnel detected. Access revoked. The guard stiffened. One looked down at his badge. Its red light blinked, then went dark. Another yanked out his earpiece, confusion growing as static replaced dispatch. The system had locked them out. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, "Did it just kick them out?" The woman's face went scarlet. She pointed at Mr. Donovan again, her confidence cracking. "This isn't real. You're hacking something." For the first time, Mr. Donovan spoke. Calm, steady. unapologetic. I didn't have to do a thing. This house knows who belongs. And it knows who doesn't. Silence followed, thick enough to cut. Even the wind held its breath. One of the guards muttered, "It's gotta be a system fault." But his voice betrayed him, thin, unsure. The woman lunged forward, finger outstretched like it could puncture reality. "Don't just stand there. Detain him. That's your job." But hesitation had already rooted itself. The tallest guard looked again at the keypad. His voice wavered. "Ma'am, the system just revoked our access." "I don't care," she snapped, her voice loud enough for every neighbor to hear. "Do it before he gets inside." Across the street, a man in jogging gear slowed, pulling out his phone, already filming. "Wait." One voice finally cut through, hesitant but loud enough to matter. That system didn't just beep. It literally addressed him as Mr. Donovan. That's not a glitch. That's facial ID. The woman in white spun around, eyes blazing. "Stay out of this," she snapped. But her outburst only added fuel to the murmurs now rippling through the growing crowd. Mr. Donovan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need volume, only precision. He locked eyes with the guards. "You know what happens when you stop following protocol and start following prejudice?" he asked, voice low but firm. "You lose. Every time." The words cut deeper than any alarm could. The younger guard, jaw clenched, still tried to salvage control. "Sir, I'm going to need to see some ID." He reached out, fingers brushing the fabric of Donovan's tank top. That's when the mansion's alarm system erupted. 3 sharp tones, each one pulsing like a warning shot. Spotlights along the driveway snapped on, flooding the guards in cold, unforgiving white. From hidden speakers, a new voice echoed, calm, unmistakable, alert, unauthorized physical contact with property owner. The guard jerked his hand back like he'd touched fire. His face went pale. From the sidewalk, the teen live streaming whispered, "Yo, did y'all catch that? It just called him the property owner." His phone screen exploded with comments. "This man owns the house. Bro, they're toast. Justice hitting different today." The woman's voice cracked, now bordering on panic. "He's faking it. He rigged this whole thing. Look at him. That's not how homeowners dress." But Mr. Donovan's gaze didn't flicker. He remembered, clear as day, being 26, standing outside a car dealership when a salesman told him, "Real buyers don't show up in sneakers." The sting had worn off years ago. What remained was something sharper, resolve. He inhaled slowly, let it settle in his chest. "Let me make this clear enough," he said, his voice reaching past the gates, past the guards, to every camera and every neighbor now watching. "The clothes don't define the homeowner. The deed does. And mine has my name on every single line." The murmurs turned into a low chorus, shifting tone, shifting sides. The guards looked uncertain. The crowd leaned in, the power dynamic cracking wide open. For the first time, Donovan wasn't the one on trial. They were, and the reckoning had just begun. The alarms faded into silence. But the lights stayed on, casting the scene like a stage. Mr. Donovan stood rooted in the glow, unmoved. No gestures, no response, just presence. The tallest guard tried to reclaim his footing. He cleared his throat. "Sir, you're escalating this." But even he stumbled on escalating, like he knew the word didn't quite apply here. Donovan hadn't moved an inch. The woman pounced on the opening. "See," she called out, voice rising an octave too high. "He's threatening, standing there like he owns the place." She gave a shrill, brittle laugh. "This is intimidation." From the sidelines, a man leaning on his car muttered, "Intimidation? He hasn't even spoken in 10 minutes. The teen whispered into his mic again. "Bro is literally just standing still, and they're crumbling." Every second Donovan stayed quiet, the tension grew. His silence filled the space like thunder, powerful without needing sound. He inhaled again, steady and slow, like he was anchoring the atmosphere. The air shifted. It no longer belonged to the guards, no longer to the woman shouting commands. It bent toward him, drawn to his calm, to his control. Then, the younger guard cracked. His composure slipped. Say something, he snapped, frustration pouring out. Where's your proof? He stepped forward, waving his badge, dead and useless, as if it still carried weight. Mr. Donovan didn't so much as flinch. And that was what made the guard falter mid-step, his momentum collapsing into shame. A memory flashed across Donovan's mind. 19. Wrongfully accused of shoplifting at a mall. The item? A birthday gift he'd saved 2 paychecks to buy for his mother. He had stood just like this. Quiet. Solid. Not because he expected fairness, but because dignity was sometimes all you had. That same quiet resistance filled the driveway now. The woman's voice cracked again, this time from fear. Why are you just standing there? Security, why aren't you restraining him? But the desperation was naked now. The word restrain wavered in her throat like it knew it didn't belong. Mr. Donovan finally lifted his head, not to speak, but to look directly into the camera mounted above the gate. It responded immediately, lens focusing on his face with clinical precision. Then the voice came again, identity confirmed. Full access maintained. The crowd rippled. Phones tilted up. The narrative, in real time, had just flipped. And Donovan, he still hadn't said another word. Because sometimes, silence is the loudest truth in the room. The scene beyond the gate had transformed. It wasn't just a few curious neighbors anymore. Porches were filling. Drivers slowed to watch. Phones lifted like they were bearing witness. The silence Donovan held now wasn't just his. It belonged to everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. The teen's livestream ticked past 5,000 viewers. His voice shook as he spoke into his mic. They tried to cuff him, but the system, y'all saw it. It called him the owner. This is happening right now. Comments flooded the feed. Let him in. This is exactly why we film. Justice has Wi-Fi today. Near the gate, a woman in a red blouse stepped forward. Small, quiet, a face few had noticed until now. I've lived across the street for 8 years, she said gently, but without hesitation. That man is Mr. Donovan. He was here before half of you even bought your homes. The tallest guard blinked, caught off guard. The woman in white spun on her, furious. You don't know what you're talking about. But the neighbor didn't back down. She held up her phone and hit record. I know exactly what I'm saying. And I'm capturing every word you're throwing around. The crowd stirred. A man near the silver SUV stepped forward. She's right. I see him jogging every week. He picks up his mail. He waves to people. This is his place. He stared down the guards. So why are you treating him like an intruder? The younger guard opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Donovan still hadn't said a word. But his silence, it wasn't passive. It was deliberate. A quiet, steady protest that somehow said more than shouting ever could. And that stillness? It gave others permission. From the back of the crowd, someone finally shouted, "This is straight-up discrimination." The reaction was instant. Some nodded, others murmured in disbelief. A woman holding her child shook her head, her voice soft but clear. All this just because of how he looks. The teenager's live stream buzzed louder, his phone trembling slightly in his grip. Comments poured in. Expose them. Post the full clip. He owns them all. The woman in white snapped, her composure slipping into panic. Stop filming. None of you understand. This man is trespassing. But her voice didn't carry weight anymore. It echoed with authority already lost. Donovan finally looked up, not at her, but at the people. His voice, when it came, was steady and low. Use your words, not just your cameras. The teen's phone dipped slightly as he swallowed. You mean speak up? Donovan gave a single nod. That was all it took. The neighbor in the red blouse stepped forward, louder this time, her voice unwavering. You don't get to erase him. Not this time. And just like that, the driveway stopped being just a line of property. It became a courtroom. And the people? They weren't just bystanders anymore. They were witnesses. Tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. The woman in white planted herself in front of the guards, voice cutting through the murmurs. Are you blind? He doesn't belong here. He's a fraud, a con artist, and you're letting him play you. Her words landed like stones, sharp, meant to trigger fear. One of the guards straightened, as if borrowing courage from her rage. "Ma'am, we'll handle it," he said, though his voice quivered beneath the surface. The neighbor fired back. "Enough. You know he lives here. Stop pretending this isn't happening." Phones swung back and forth, capturing every word. The live stream counter surged, 10,000 viewers now. Comments cascaded like water. "She's unraveling. Cover up in real time. Watch how she flips it." The woman's eyes darted from screen to screen and then back to Donovan. Her voice took on a venomous edge. "This neighborhood was supposed to be safe. And people like you threaten that." She swept her gaze up and down his frame, her voice dripping with contempt. "Dressed like that. Walking around like you own the place." She spat the words like poison. "You're just a thief playing dress up." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Even one of the guards muttered under his breath, "That's too far." But Donovan didn't react. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. His silence became a mirror, and it reflected everything she was. The younger guard, perhaps emboldened or perhaps just desperate to regain control, raised his chin. "Sir, you still haven't shown proof. Without that, this is trespassing." He pulled out his radio, pressed the button. Only static answered. The system had already cut his line. Someone near the back shouted, "Even your radio knows who owns the place." Laughter broke out, short, sharp, undeniable. The woman in white turned back to Donovan, her face now burning with rage. "Go back to wherever you came from. You don't belong here." That sentence, it hit harder than any siren, harder than the light, because it wasn't just a statement. It was a verdict, an erasure. Donovan lifted his head slowly, locking eyes with her, finally. His voice, calm and deliberate, sliced through everything. "You keep saying I don't belong. Maybe ask yourself, why do you?" The crowd stirred. The live stream exploded. And just like that, the balance shifted. The guards no longer looked like defenders. They looked like men trapped on the wrong side of history. And the night was just getting started. Before the moment could settle, the younger guard snapped. "That's it," he barked, lunging again. He grabbed Donovan's arm roughly, yanking him backward. Gasps rose from the crowd. The teenager filming shouted, "Yo, he's grabbing him again. On camera. That's the owner." The live stream lit up like wildfire. "Lawsuit incoming. That's assault. They just messed up bad." The taller guard rushed in to help, fumbling with the cuffs. "Don't resist, and this will all be over," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. His voice trembled. The woman in white seized her moment, eyes lit with cruel satisfaction. "Yes, finally, get him out of here. Arrest him before he tricks anyone else." She pointed at Donovan like she was sentencing him. "People like him only take what isn't theirs." The words detonated. Neighbors recoiled. The woman in red screamed, "Stop. He hasn't done anything." But her voice was almost drowned out by the snap of the cuffs, sharp, cold, final. Or so they thought. The mansion responded first. The lights on the gate blazed white-hot. Then came the voice, new, deeper, and unmistakably official. "Warning. Use of force against the property owner will initiate escalation protocol." The guards froze. One of the cuffs clicked, but refused to lock. The mechanism jammed, sparks flaring inside the hinge. The system had shut it down. The crowd gasped. Phones captured everything. The teen stream blew past 30,000. Comments flew. "That house is smarter than the guards." System said, "Not today." The younger guard cursed, trying to pull the cuff back. "Damn thing." But the crowd had already made up its mind. "That's not broken tech," someone called out. "That's protection." The woman in white lost it. Her voice cracked under the weight of her unraveling control. "He hacked it. Don't you see? He's a criminal." But there was no fire left in her. Just fear. That's when Donovan spoke, for real. His voice rose, not angry, just done. "You just called me a thief, while standing at the gate of the home I built." He paused. "Every word you've spoken, every action you've taken tonight, it's only confirmed one thing." He looked at her. then at the guards. You're the ones who don't belong here. The crowd erupted, some in disbelief, others in righteous cheers. But all of them had just witnessed it, the tipping point where authority fractured. The cuff clinked once against Donovan's wrist before slipping loose, the mechanism refusing to lock. The younger guard stared at it, stunned, as if the metal itself had turned against him. Red and white alarm lights swept over the driveway, strobing across faces now wide with realization. Donovan exhaled, steady, grounded, and reached into his pocket. No urgency, no sudden moves, just deliberate intent. He pulled out his phone, tapped once, and brought it to his ear. His voice came low, but ironclad. "Celine, activate Westgate Protocol." The line clicked, and a woman's voice responded instantly, crisp and in control. Protocol engaged. Visual sync initializing. Above the gate, the security cameras snapped to life, whirring as they locked onto the guards. Their radios fizzed, then fell silent. The tallest one pressed his earpiece, panic flickering across his face. "Dispatch, are you there? Do you read me?" "Nothing. Just static." Then, a new display lit up across the gate's glass panel. Rows of data streamed, names, IDs, clearance codes. And one by one, each guard's name flashed red. Access revoked. The younger guard stumbled backward, breath shallow. No, this isn't happening." His badge vibrated once, then dimmed to black. Phones caught every detail. Lenses zoomed in. Voices rose. He shut them down, someone whispered. He just locked them out. The woman in white stepped forward again, her voice jagged with panic. "In this is a stunt. A trick. You're bluffing." Donovan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I don't bluff," he said, his words hitting like truth bullets. "When it comes to what I own." The system chimed in behind him. Calm, commanding, final. Security access terminated. Awaiting owner authorization for personnel removal. 30 phones captured the moment, broadcasted it. The live stream surged past 50,000 viewers. The guards stood still, color draining from their faces. One slammed his badge against the scanner. Invalid. The crowd broke into gasps, then disbelief, then celebration. "He just fired the whole crew live?" A man laughed. "He's the boss." The woman's voice cracked, teetering between rage and fear. You can't do this. You don't have that kind of power." Donovan turned to her slowly, gaze steady as granite. "You mistook silence for weakness," he said. "That was your last mistake." The alarms cut out. The gate groaned open, slow, deliberate, like a curtain drawing back. And now, for everyone watching, it was clear. He wasn't the trespasser. He was the one in charge. He was the judge. Iron bars parted, revealing the truth. But Donovan didn't move. He stood in the light, unmoved, letting the silence soak the guards, the woman, the crowd. The system voice returned, clear, final. Owner profile confirmed. "Welcome home, Mr. Donovan." Gasps rippled. Phones lifted higher. The teen on the stream nearly shouted. "You guys heard that? Owner. Not guest. Not visitor. Owner." The woman in white staggered a step back, her face gone pale. "No, he's lying. This is fake." But her denial faded under the glare of dozens of recording phones. Donovan finally stepped forward. "You call me a trespasser at my own front gate. You tried to cuff me on property I built. And you tried to erase me from something that exists because of me." The murmurs in the crowd became voices now. A man leaning out of his SUV shook his head. "She said he didn't belong?" He turned toward the guards. "She's the one out of place." The younger guard's badge buzzed again. A final message blinked across it, permanently revoked. He shoved it into his pocket, his hands trembling, unable to meet Donovan's eyes. Donovan held the phone still in his hand. Celine's voice came through the speaker, steady and composed. "All systems online. Authority confirmed. Would you like to enable public verification?" Donovan glanced toward the crowd, toward the phones, the streaming eyes, the neighbors watching from porches. "Yes," he said. Let everyone see. The gate's screen flickered again. First came a magazine cover, his face front and center, bold letters across the top. Forbes. Donovan Holdings CEO expands global reach. Then another image appeared. Donovan cutting a red ribbon at the mansion's entrance, smiling in front of news cameras. Gasps erupted. That's him, someone whispered. He really owns all of this, said another. They tried to evict the man who owns the whole neighborhood. Came a third. The woman in white backed away, shaking her head. No, no, this isn't real. But no one believed her anymore. Donovan's eyes swept the crowd, calm but unshakable. I don't need to shout, he said. My life speaks loud enough. He turned back toward the woman. You tried to silence it. But tonight, the truth silenced you. Applause broke out. Uncontainable, irrepressible. Phones shook as they streamed. Cheers echoed off the walls of the estate. And for the woman and the guards, the consequences landed hard and heavy. Because the man they tried to remove wasn't the threat. He was the rightful owner. And now, everyone knew it. The street lit up, not with sirens, but with truth. The balance of power had shifted, completely, irrevocably. The guards stood empty-handed. The woman, unraveling. And Donovan, he was still standing, still steady, still silent. But now, the silence belonged to him. From the edge of the crowd, the woman in the red blouse stepped forward, her voice cutting clear through the tension. You put your hands on him. You tried to erase him. And every second, it's on camera. Her phone trembled, not from fear, but from fury. You don't get to hide now. The guards exchanged panicked glances, pale under the glare of truth. One whispered, This could ruin us. The other stared down at his lifeless badge. It already did. From his SUV, the driver lifted his phone higher, his voice rising like a final verdict. You just profiled the man who signs the checks that pay for your jobs, your gear, your futures, and you did it live for the world to see. His words slammed down like a gavel. The teen's live stream surged again, comments flying faster than they could be read, instant termination. Hope they get sued for every cent. This is justice. Unfiltered. Donovan hadn't moved. He let the weight of silence press harder than any shout ever could. Then finally, his voice came, measured, razor-sharp. You call me a fraud. Locked me out of what I built. But now, the truth has locked you out instead. The guards flinched. The woman in white shook her head wildly, eyes scanning for an exit, but the crowd had turned. A mother pulled her daughter closer, her voice calm, strong. Remember this, she told the girl. Respect isn't about uniforms. It's about dignity. Applause sparked, first scattered, then swelling. Phones weren't pointed at Donovan anymore. They were aimed at the guards. At her, capturing every inch of their downfall. The crisis was over, but the reckoning had just begun. The ones who had clung to power now stood exposed, stripped bare. And the man they tried to silence stood taller than ever, without even raising his voice. The applause faded to a hush. Every eye turned to Donovan. The guards stood frozen, their badges dead, their authority gone. The woman in white shrank back, leaning against the stone gate post. Donovan lifted his phone again and tapped once. Celine, he said evenly, his voice carrying effortlessly across the silence. Log the incident. Terminate Westgate security detail, effective immediately. The reply came instantly. Acknowledged. Credentials revoked. Employment records flagged. Processing now. The guards winced as their devices buzzed one last time, then went dark. Their badges blacked out. Their radios fell silent. One tried his earpiece again. Nothing. Another fumbled with his phone only to watch it log out. A bold message flashing across the screen, access denied. Employment terminated. Gasps swept the crowd. The teen with the stream nearly dropped his phone. Yo, he just fired the entire team. On the spot. The comments exploded. Live justice. Legend move. Power flex of the decade. The SUV driver clapped once, sharp, deliberate. Others followed. Applause building until it cracked the air like thunder. The woman in white stumbled forward, desperate now. "You can't do this," she screamed. "You don't have the right." Donovan's eyes locked on hers. His voice stayed low, but every word hit like a sentence passed. "You mistook my silence for permission," he said. "This is your correction." She froze, lips quivering. From the crowd, someone shouted, "Check the live stream. It's all there." Every moment, every misstep, recorded. The guards no longer resisted. They stood small, cornered by their own actions. The woman in red raised her phone higher, her voice steady. "Justice doesn't have to shout," she said. "It just has to happen." Donovan lowered his phone, slipped it into his pocket, and finally took a step toward the open gate. The lights glowed green. The house welcomed him, not with words, but with certainty. Behind him, the terminated team watched like ghosts locked out of the only world they'd ever known how to control. The crowd pressed closer, watching, knowing something irreversible had taken place. And Donovan, he hadn't just defended himself. He'd dismantled the system in front of the world. The green light washed over him as he crossed the threshold. The iron gates parted slowly, with reverence, like they knew they weren't just opening for a man. They were opening for the truth. Phones angled upward, capturing it all. The guards stayed frozen, badges black, radios silent. The woman in white pressed herself against the stone pillar, voice shrinking into a whisper. This can't be real." But no one heard her anymore. All attention was on Donovan. He turned, not rushing inside, but letting the silence stretch one last time. Then his voice rose, calm, certain, every syllable sculpted from stone. "You tried to erase me from my own gates. Called me a trespasser in the place where my name is carved in stone. But dignity?" He paused. "Dignity doesn't shout. It stands. It speaks with truth." The crowd stirred. Murmurs turned into nods. The teenager's stream surged past 100,000. Comments rolled in. He never even yelled. Iconic. Real power doesn't need volume. Donovan let the moment breathe, then spoke one final line, sharp as a judge's gavel. "I don't need to record justice. I am the result of it." The street erupted. Applause thundered. Cheers roared. Voices chanted his name. The SUV driver threw both arms up in solidarity. The woman in red whispered, tears in her eyes. About time they saw the truth. The guards turned away, smaller now, diminished. The woman in white tried to disappear into the crowd, but the phones followed, every step a record of arrogance unraveling. Donovan faced the gate again, still calm, still certain. And as he crossed into the place they tried to keep him from, the world watched and remembered. The mansion lights came alive, washing the grand facade in warm, golden glow, steady and deliberate. It was as if the house itself had risen in acknowledgement, offering a silent bow to its rightful owner. Donovan stepped through the threshold without once looking back. Behind him, the heavy doors swung shut, the sound echoing like a gavel sealing the end of a trial. The crowd outside remained, buzzing, reeling, stunned. They knew they hadn't just witnessed a confrontation. They'd witnessed a reckoning, not one delivered with shouting or force, but with silence, with patience, and with a power so undeniable it didn't need to raise its voice. When the gates locked behind him, they didn't just close on a moment. They sealed a message into the night itself. True power never needs to prove itself. Thank you for watching. Subscribe me and hit the notification bell to not miss new stories. Bye.